Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to go through my worst books of 2023. Now my reading year was atrocious, gonna be honest. Most of them were 3 stars and under. 3 stars I would argue is not terrible though. I think 3 stars is just in the middle, okay, can't really complain. So yeah, I'm gonna go down because there is an order. Actually, I think there is an order for this one. So I don't own any of these books anymore. Why would I keep them? Let's be honest, why would I keep them? So the only one I actually do have, which is really funny, is my least favourite book of 2023. So I'm going to go through those. Oh shit, nearly broke my laptop, which is where I have them all written down. So at number 10 is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. This whole series was honestly a disappointment. The first book got 3 stars and then they just went lower and lower and lower. The whole thing was just a bit meh. I enjoyed reading the first one when I first read it, like years ago, and I enjoyed the film with Martin Freeman because, you know, why wouldn't you like that film? It's classically British and just insane. But there was so much misogyny, so much just boring old sci-fi, and I don't know. I was just generally disappointed with it. So that was my number 10 pick. Number 9 is Skander and the Unicorn Thief by A.F. Steadman. I listened to this one on audio and it was one of those recommended Waterstones recommended children's books, and they're kind of like a hit and miss for me, and I don't know, I just didn't really get on with it. I thought it was a bit boring and I was just like, what's the point? Where are we going with this? So that's why that's on this list. It was fine. Like, there was nothing, I think that's the thing about it. It was fine. There's nothing to complain about, but it wasn't interesting. It was just a bit meh. As terrible as that sounds, it was just a bit meh. Number 8. Now this one breaks my heart a little bit, but it was Glass Houses by Rachel Kane. This used to be my favourite vampire series of all time. I loved the Morganville Vampire series, like, more than I can ever explain to you. It was one of my teen series that just was up there, was amazing. I really loved it. I loved everything about, like, Claire, the main character, and Shane, and Michael and Eve. They were like, I wanted them to be my friends. I wanted to be Claire. I wanted to be this genius that went to the, like, Texas school of whatever, like, Texas School of Being a Genius. Like, that's what I wanted, and I wanted everything. And the thing is, as an adult reading these books, I suddenly realised that 16-year-old Claire should not be with 21-year-old Shane. And that was a little bit predatory, and I suddenly realised that all of these relationships were super problematic and super damaging, and it just played into the stereotype that teen girls are stupid and are easy to manipulate and all that jazz. I don't know. It made me real uncomfy when I realised just how problematic those relationships were. Michael and Eve is borderline abusive, to be honest, and the boys throw their weight around quite a lot to get the girls to do what they want. And I don't know, I was just overall disappointed in my reread. I've not read past book 3, and the only reason I read to book 3 in the first place is because book 3 is when my favourite character, Merlin, is introduced, and he is just as crazy and just as awesome as I remember. So there are good things about the series, but I just think there are better vampire series out there. There are many out there, but Morganville was the one for me when I was a teen, and like many things I am rereading as an adult, they just don't hold up, sadly. Very, very, very sadly. Number 7, well, technically it's number 4, is The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. Again, this was just such a meh book. Like, I read it, it existed, it was really boring, and I think the thing with it, it was such a beautiful naked hardback that kind of grabbed people, and that happens a lot with aesthetic books. They're not actually as good as the cover would suggest, and it's, again, never judge a book by its cover. But unfortunately, I'm the type of person that will, because I like pretty things, I like pretty editions of books. What can I say? I mean, it is totally on me for not doing my research a bit more. And I knew people were kind of hot or cold on it, but I wanted to give it a go for myself, so I did, and it just wasn't for me. I wanted it to commit more to the nature magic, and I know that sounds mad, but it just kind of didn't. It was just all around meh. I can hardly remember the plot at this point. Like, I genuinely don't remember anything about it other than the word meh. Next up, so book number 5. Well, book number 6. We'll say 6 because we're going ascending. Ascending. Yes, ascending order is The Book of Accidents by Chuck Wendig. Now, this was a horror book. I had both the physical and the audio. I listened to the audio, and I didn't really enjoy it. It was just too confusing, too weird. I mean, I love weird books, so it wasn't really too weird. It was just, I didn't really get on with it. I just didn't like the writing. I didn't like the premise. I just didn't like it. It was a parallel world type thing. Time was being played with, etc., etc. It just, there were too many things going on with it. I just didn't enjoy it at all. At all. So there are better sci-fi horror stuff out there. 100%. Don't pick it up. Not worth it. It's also huge. The book is huge. I don't know why it's so long, but it's really long and kind of a waste of time. Sorry. Now we're on to the books that I gave 2 stars. So all those ones were 3 stars, as these are the ones I gave 2 stars. So book number 5 is Bluebird by CLPLO. This was a sci-fi, LGBTQ sci-fi lesbian space romp, and it was a space opera. I'd say it fell flat so many times, and I really wanted to love it, and I did to begin with, but the more the book progressed, the less I gave a shit. It wasn't the worst thing I read by far, like, there were way worse books, which is why it's kind of, like, middle of the pack. Like, it wasn't great. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever read, though, and it was exciting, it was fun, until it wasn't. And I'd say, like, it got bad about 40% of the way in, and then just kind of kept on getting worse, and the ending annoyed the hell out of me. I remember it being really, 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 like, coincidental, and, like, I don't know, it just bothered me. I feel like there should have been more of a build-up. So, again, there are better sci-fi space operas out there. I did like the LGBTQ plus representation, though, so there is that. Book number 4 is the Book of Living Secrets by Madeleine Roux. This was god fucking awful. I hated it so much. It's a miracle it got 2 stars, I'm gonna be honest with you. But I remember just hating it, hating the experience. These characters drove me nuts. Like, nuts. I think there were so many things about these 2 girls that just pissed me right off. And, like, they found themselves in a fucking witch's shop, and then they were suddenly in this book, and they were trying to find their way out, and they were getting captured, and, like, they were being misidentified as all these people, and it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, how have you got yourself into this mess? And to be honest, I can't really judge too much, because if I got into that situation, I'd probably just sit down and let anyone kill me by that point, because I probably wasn't going to work my way out of this situation at all. There were some little flashes of kind of cool stuff with, like, historical kind of, like, basis of the city they're in. I don't remember which city they're in, because I'm trying to not remember this book, because I didn't like it. But there was kind of like eldritch beings, which was kind of cool, people being snatched into the sea. Like, there were little bits that were really, really cool, but unfortunately the execution wasn't quite there. Book number 3 was Heart of the Storm Warrior by Su Lin Tan. Now, this won't be super surprising, I don't think, because I didn't enjoy Daughter of the Moon Goddess, which begs the question of why did I continue the series, and I can't really tell you why, other than I'm a completionist, and I'm also nosy, and I like to know where things are going. So, yeah. I read this quite early on in 2023, so again, my memory is terrible. And I know you probably came here for rant reviews, and I hope I've given some of it, and believe me, that's the next 2, you're probably going to get it. It was just not what I was looking for. I wanted more Moon Goddess, to be honest. I wanted more out of the story. I didn't like it. I didn't like the romance in it. I didn't care for it. I didn't care for any of it. I didn't care about the quest. I didn't care about the characters, so I finished it though, so I got 2 stars. Moving on. My top 2 least favourite books of the year. So the second one was Frozen Charlotte by, I haven't put down the author, Alex Bell. Now, I read this for a book club. I seem to be the only person in this book club that absolutely hated this book. I gave it 1 star. There were too many things going on. It was supposed to be a middle grade horror. It was very much like bordering on the line of middle grade and YA. It didn't commit to being one specific type of horror, and it started off really well. Like, the idea of these dolls being possessed was so cool. Such a cool idea. I love, like, dolls and toys and stuff being these inanimate objects that suddenly become these horror things, and especially because these Frozen Charlottes didn't have eyes, and there was a whole thing about that, and that's creepy. Great creepy imagery. There was a little thing with a needle and an eye that just not for me. Great for horror, great, don't get me wrong, but it relied too much on, like, these little shock horrors. Like, it wasn't like psychological horror, it didn't make you think. It was just very much in your face, slapping you in the face. Oh, this is happening, this is really scary, and this is happening. You had the psychopath being involved, you had this father who didn't really seem to know what was going on, you had the mentioning of fires, and there was this and this and this and this and this, and it just didn't let itself breathe. And I think that was ultimately the worst thing about it. There was also this weird relationship between the main character and her cousin, which no one else seemed to pick up on, and I was like, They're related though. They're related though, and he's a lot older. What is happening? Like, it was just a little bit gross. And I really fucking hated it, which is unfortunate because I love a horror. I love a middle grade horror usually. Like, they make me think, they make me much more scared than an adult or YA horror does, because adult and YA horror can get away with a lot more than a middle grade could. So surprising, I was so surprised that this one didn't get me at all. So I gave it 1 star. I wouldn't recommend it. Other people loved it, so look at Goodreads, I guess, and make up your mind if you're thinking about reading it, because I would say not to bother. And now for the main event, the event that I bet no one has waited for. My least favourite book of 2023. Drumroll, please. I mean, it's in the thumbnail, so I don't know why I'm making such a big deal of this, but it's The Shadow People by Graham Masterton. This book can get in a bin. That bin can be set on fire, and then that whole thing can be pushed into the sea. Graham Masterton can also follow if he wants to, because this book was awful. I read this for a book club. When I tell you I thought this book was written in the 1980s, it's for a reason. Graham Masterton didn't go, I'm gonna be a bigot and I'm gonna upset one group of people. No, I am going to be a racist, a misogynist, an ableist, and all the ists you can probably think of. It's disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting. I don't know how this book was published in 2021. Because I think that's when it was published. I'm almost 100% certain that's when it was published. This is why I said that really confidently, and it wasn't. No, 2021. This fucker was published in 2021. I cannot tell you for why. It's part of like a wider series. Okay, great. Graham Masterton, stop writing. So this is about some police officers who are investigating a really, really grisly murder. There is transphobia by page like 13. Just, there is racism because all of the bad guys, quote unquote bad guys, are all non-white. The police officer that is also non-white is also there just to give some backstory. Like, okay. And she only knows that because she's not white. I mean, it's just so stupid, so ridiculous. And like, it's a cult. There's Neolithic gods, languages that haven't been spoken for like thousands of years, all of that kind of bullshit. Again, great kind of concept. Terrible when you make it just all of them. They're homeless, they have mental health issues. This is what I mean. He doesn't pick a lane, he picks all of the lanes. He's just gonna go hate you, and make everyone bad that is different from the author. And when I say I don't think it should have been published, is because there's so many offensive things in here. The transphobia was ridiculous straight away. The black police officer is the only one that speaks in any type of slang. And it's just so generalised. All of this is so generalised, and I hate every second of it. I thought, you know what, okay, I want to get the full picture. No, you don't need the full picture. So I just wouldn't fucking read this. This is only here because it's in a box full of books that I'm already getting rid of. But fucking hell, this was by far the worst book I think I've read like so far in my entire lifetime. Which is a wild statement, I know, I've read a lot. This was just so offensive. And Graham Masterton is one of like the grandfathers of horror too. And I'm like, you should know better. You should know better. There are so many other ways of making horror work. Stephen Graham Jones does it. D. Kingfisher does it. Why can't you? Well, I know, because you're an old white guy who refuses to change. And I hate it. And I don't care if this seems like a read on the author. It kind of is. Because bigotry doesn't stem from nowhere. Like, it's not being written in a bubble. And I cannot fathom this being written and people enjoying it. Like, I'm cautioning anyone not to read this because it's so bad. Like, I don't think I was happy at any point of this. Kids were kidnapped by these people who were in the sewer systems, and I just, no, this can get in the bin, be set on fire, and thrown into the sea. I'm sorry. I'm getting annoyed. But yes, I am going to end this video here because I'm just going to get too annoyed. So in the comments down below, let me know what your worst book of 2023 is. If you disagree with me, let's have a conversation about it. If you can't be bothered, as always, a book emoji, book sack emoji is always appreciated here. And hopefully in the next video, I'll be a little bit happier. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye!